Here's a home phone, and here's a home phone. They're both reliable and provide unlimited local calls. But that's where the similarities end. This one includes more than 18 popular calling features, like call waiting, caller ID, three-way calling, and call forwarding. The other one charges extra for those, as much as $34.50 more a month if you add them all up. This one includes voicemail. The other one does not. This one has low long-distance rates, just 15 cents a minute to the US. The other one charges 47 cents a minute for the same thing. So, which one would you choose for your home phone? This one is Rev Voice, and you can get it for as low as $14.99 a month. Rev Voice, the better choice. Sign up for Rev Voice today for as low as $14.99 a month. You get lots of free features, lower long-distance rates, and great sound quality. Call us at 601-8992 to sign up for Rev Voice today.
The Prime Minister talks capital punishment. This as a second murder is recorded less than 24 hours into the new year. Police report another traffic death. Valley Boys react to their double win plus at least one A group to challenge New Year's Day parade results. We've got those stories and a whole lot more tonight. I'm Bonnie Toot, and NB12 starts now. Topping news tonight, following yet another year filled with bloodshed and a pledge by government to combat crime with a series of initiatives, Prime Minister Christie says Bahamians may be asked their opinions on changing the criteria for the death penalty. Dana Smith tells us more.
Speaking in the wake of Tall Pines MP Leslie Miller's call for parliamentarians to push for the death penalty or get lost, Christie said serious consideration is being given to a possible constitutional amendment and that the issue of the death penalty will be debated and discussed in Parliament.
There are some people in there who do not believe in it, and there are others who believe in it. I mean, and so I think he has a point of view, but the issue will be discussed and will be debated.
Christie was speaking at the New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade shortly after the Bush Warriors marched down Bay Street holding signs calling for murderers to be hanged. The group also dragged an effigy of such a person. Christie said being considered by his government is asking the public its opinion on a constitutional amendment regarding the criteria for the death penalty. He said there are arguments the criteria set out by the prior Ingram administration in response to recommendations by London's Privy Council are not sufficiently effective.
There is a considerable discussion going on now about affecting the Constitution, about actually taking the law that was put in place by the Ingram government to guide decision-making, setting out those circumstances in which capital punishment should be mandatory. That is killing a police officer, for example. And so there has been arguments that that is not sufficiently effective, and to make it effective, one ought to have a constitutional amendment. But that is a very serious issue that is now will have to be given serious consideration of asking the Bahamian people to give consideration to that.
The Prime Minister said the question of capital punishment is bound to surface considering the recent spate of crimes in the country's capital, some of which have been previously described by the Prime Minister as heinous. However, Christie also noted yesterday, although the law does allow for the death penalty, the Privy Council is the ultimate court of appeal. He said there is a disconnect between what the Council believes is the worst of the worst and what Bahamians believe.
Capital punishment is on the law books of the Bahamas. The difficulty has been that the Privy Council, the highest court of appeal in the Bahamas, has defined the standard as being the worst of the worst. And to give you an example where a young man took a young lady out of her home, killed her, that was not considered the worst of the worst. And so there's clearly a major disconnect between what Bahamians would believe should be deserving of capital punishment and what the Privy Council has indicated should be the standard. And so it's a vexing matter for the country.
Opposition leader Hubert Minnis and DNA leader Ranville McCartney both have previously voiced their support of capital punishment. The last time the death penalty was carried out was on January 6 in the year 2000. Reporting for MB12, I'm Dana Smith.
Just 2 days into the new year, police are already investigating a second murder. A shooting incident on Buttonwood Avenue, Pinewood Gardens, left one man dead and another in hospital last evening. Assistant Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson gave these details on the scene.
Sometime around 7:20 p.m. this afternoon, the police received a report of gunshots in the Buttonwood Street, which is located at the Pinewood Gardens. Officers responded, and just to the south of us, near this apartment, officers discovered a male who was suffering from apparent gunshot injuries about the body, and a second male who was suffering from gunshot injuries to the leg.
Ferguson said the victims were among a group of people standing in front of an apartment complex when a car pulled up and its occupants emerged and opened fire.
The deceased, along with the male who was shot in the leg, was standing in that area along with a number of other male persons when occupants from a small vehicle pulled up. The occupants got out, opened fire on the man, resulting in this deceased, who was still on site, being shot fatally.
The man who was shot to the leg was taken to hospital where he's listed in stable condition. New Year's Day ended fatally for the driver of one vehicle shortly after 7 last night. Police say 2 vehicles, a white Nissan Laurel and a silver Mercedes-Benz, were heading east on the double-lane highway on John F. Kennedy Drive when a collision occurred, causing both cars to go careening into nearby bushes. The Mercedes received severe front-end damage, and that driver of that vehicle had minor injuries. However, the driver of the Nissan, 53-year-old Ricardo Edward Store of Cumberbatch Alley, Wolf Road, succumbed to his injuries in the crash. 2 female passengers in that vehicle were taken to hospital for treatment. Shattered glass littered the highway as police blocked off the eastbound lane. Superintendent Stephen Dean was on the scene. He was unable to say if speed was a factor in the accident, but sent this message to all motorists.
We do not know at this stage, but we could use this opportunity to tell persons, particularly when you travel on these major thoroughfares, to exercise great caution and care and watch the amount of speed that you might be driving at. And additionally too, this is no road to be with speed and the use of alcohol. With those mixture, it could cause problems. We are not implying that that's what happened in this matter, but we are putting that warning out to persons who might be driving along this route.
This incident marks the 2nd traffic fatality for the year. Former head of the National Advisory Council on Crime, Bishop Simeon Hall, is not mincing words when it comes to the recent crime strategies announced by Prime Minister Christie. Hall called the 20-point plan laughable, noting that 4 murders have occurred since then. Jasmine Bonamy has his candid comments in this report.
With the murder count continuing to rise days after Christie announced that 20-point plan, Bishop Hall insists a nonpartisan approach must be taken in order to see any real dent in crime. Bishop Hall insists the fear index is at its highest in the Bahamas and crime has become a national nightmare. The government has been criticized heavily and accused of not being serious enough about handling crime. After last week's shooting at a park in Fox Hill that left 4 people dead, Christie held an emergency cabinet meeting on Monday. Following that meeting, several initiatives were announced. Hall says while he supports the government in any and every effort it makes, he's not convinced a single 7-hour cabinet meeting can produce any real results. The outspoken bishop says that's evident by the fact that 2 murders were recorded the day after Christie's announcement.
Obviously, the criminals scoffed at Mr. Christie's 20-point plan because within hours they just went ahead and did what they wanted to do. I'm not sure that those 20 points did very much.
He also said, notwithstanding pronouncements of swift justice, habitual criminals are not afraid to go to jail. Hall says the fact that the majority of the more than 100 murders committed in 2013 were committed by persons known to police shows the judiciary is nearing the edge of irrelevance. And one way he believes we can put a dent in this vexing problem is to make crime a national problem. He is calling for all political parties to meet in a national conclave to develop a 10 to 15-year plan.
One way I believe we can put a dent in this is for us to make crime a national problem. It is not a PLP problem or an FNM problem. I believe one way we can move forward is to call for both major political parties or all political parties to meet in a national conclave where we develop a 10 to 15-year national crime plan so as to beat this nightmare. The bottom line is the criminals are not taking our pronouncements seriously. And until they do, we need to send a stronger message.
Hall said while the Bahamian people too have a role to play by assisting police with information and turning over their criminal relatives, the government is called to take the lead. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
An advocacy group, Families of All Murder Victims, spent the morning singing hymns and holding hands in a show of solidarity. In this report, Christina McNeil tells us how the group is upping the ante in the fight against crime.
FOAM members and artists using Cumberland Street as the backdrop for a peaceful protest, raising awareness about the far-reaching effects of crime on families and the country.
The crime?
Yeah.
The crime should be done.
Like, what should be done to improve, like, to make it stop?
Police.
120 murders in 2013 left hurting families in the wake, and even more children without parents, grandparents, sisters, and brothers. It's something that will stick with them long after they leave childhood, the knowledge that a family member has been killed and justice may not have been served. FOAM today joining hands with the arts community, beginning with Antonius Roberts, to open the eyes and hearts of the Bahamian people to the needs of families of murder victims.
Not only adults are being affected by the Damon Call murder, but also kids. Too long we look at what he or she wasn't, or that person who got killed down the road, he was a drug dealer or he was in and out of prison. But we have to look now beyond that because children now are being affected by it. Not that now, but they always has been affected by it. But persons too long were turning a blind eye, and people be like, when your loved one is murdered, oh, get over it. How does one get over their loved one being murdered knowing that, hey, guess what? My loved one wasn't sick. I didn't leave him or her hospitalized. He just left from by me. We don't look for the change overnight, but we know that one day God is going to answer our prayer and he's going to step in. You know, like he said, anything with two heads is a monster. So we ask now that everything to come together and there'll be one voice. And the whole Nassau Bahamas now, there'll be one voice in dealing with the crime epidemic.
The murder of 4 near the Fox Hill Park last Friday still hangs over the heads of many across the country, including Roberts. The founder of Hillside House says he's encouraging artists to create some sort of tribute to the murder victims of 2013, with all proceeds going to FOAM's outreach efforts.
Seeing what happened on Bay Street with the Fox Hill Congos and the fact that the most exciting aspect of Junkanoo to me in 2013 to 2014 is when the Congos came out, everybody out of costume and in a true spirit of celebration, the true spirit. They deserve to win the parade as far as I'm concerned. If I can convince or invite artists to just make a contribution of a work, that work can be from what they have now within their collection, or we produce a body of work to celebrate the lives of the victims of 2013. Celebrate their lives, just try and present a positive spin. And then those works we can offer for auction or for sale. And 100% full proceeds raised from that will go towards with the work that you are doing. We can sit back and say it doesn't affect us, but it does. And so the fact that we're doing it now is because we feel that it is time.
Robert says he would like to bring hope to the lives of some of the children affected by murder. Hillside House is located on Cumberland Street, just feet away from Government House. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.